All right, getting ready for a big interview, ICT System Architect. Want to make sure you're prepped and confident. That's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really in-demand role.
Absolutely.
And it really does. It takes a lot more than just technical skills to succeed in a role like this.
Right.
You're going to be designing, overseeing complex systems. So they'll be looking to see, can you think strategically? Can you solve problems? Can you handle the soft skills like communication,
Yeah.
collaboration?
Yeah. All those tricky things that are so important. So let's dive into it. We've got two awesome resources from RoleCatcher here. The ICT System Architect Complete Career Guide and the Complete Career Interview Guide.
These guides are great. They give us a lot of insight into the role itself, but also, really crucially, give us a sneak peek into the kinds of questions you might get asked.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll also be sprinkling in some tips on how RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you tailor your answers and practice your delivery. Get
It-
that extra edge.
for sure. But first, let's kind of set the stage. What does an ICT system architect actually do?
Yeah. From what I'm seeing in the career guide, it's a lot more than just coding. Like you're designing the architecture, entire systems, figuring out how software and hardware work together seamlessly, making sure everything meets, the specific requirements, and probably, anticipating future needs as technology evolves.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The guide uses the term systems thinking,
Okay.
which I think really captures the essence of this role. It's about seeing the big picture, understanding how all the pieces fit together, and making sure the system as a whole works well.
I like that systems thinking. Maybe I can even work that into my answers,
Yeah,
impress them.
for sure. Yeah. Now, let's get into some of those interview questions. I think a good place to start is with that real classic. What experience do you have in designing and implementing complex ICT systems?
Okay, so this is where you get to showcase your experience, but how do you do that in a way that's informative and engaging? I don't want to sound like I'm just reading off my resume.
Right, you don't want to just list projects.
Oh.
Instead, think about a specific project that was really particularly challenging or interesting, something that really highlights your skills and expertise. Tell a story. Walk them through the process. What were the challenges you faced? What were the decisions that you made? What were the outcomes? What did you achieve?
So it's kind of storytelling with a technical twist.
Yeah, exactly. And remember to focus on those skills that are so important for an ICT system architect, things like problem solving, decision making, communication, and collaboration. The career guide really stresses the importance of those soft skills. So make sure you weave them into your story.
That's such a good point, yeah. So, I can talk about a time when I had to work with a difficult stakeholder or maybe a time when I had to make a really tough decision with limited information.
Exactly. And if you can quantify your achievements, even better. So, for example, instead of saying, I improved system performance, you could say, I increased the system throughput by 20%.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. Concrete numbers always make an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what if they follow up with something like, what were some of the key challenges you faced in that project and how did you overcome them?
Okay, so they're really trying to see how I think on my feet and handle those unexpected things that come up.
Exactly. So be prepared to talk about those obstacles. Was it technical limitations, budget constraints, maybe conflicting requirements from stakeholders? And most importantly, highlight how you used your skills and creativity to find solutions.
This is where I think RoleCatcher's AI could be really helpful because their Copilot AI can analyze the job description and suggest some of those challenges. That might be specific to the role you're going for. So you can really brainstorm how you would handle those situations in advance.
Yeah, it's like having that crystal ball, giving you a little peek into the interviewer's mind. All right, let's look at another common question. How do you ensure that ICT systems are scalable and can handle future growth?
Okay, so this is all about being forward thinking, right? They're looking for someone who's not just thinking about today's needs, but anticipating tomorrow's challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. They want to know you understand how to build systems that can adapt and grow as the needs of the business change. And, the career guide mentions some key technologies that are really crucial for scalability, things like cloud computing, virtualization.
So I could talk about leveraging cloud platforms
Mm,
like AWS or Azure to provide that flexibility and scalability.
Absolutely. And you can also talk about using virtualization to optimize, resource utilization and reduce costs. But again, don't just throw around those buzzwords.
Right. Show them that you understand how these technologies work and how you would actually apply them in real-world scenarios.
Exactly, exactly. So what if they say, can you give me a specific example of how you've designed a system for scalability in the past?
Okay, now they're putting me on the spot. I've got to have that example.
Yeah. And again, RoleCatcher's Copilot AI can be a lifesaver because it can analyze those past experiences and suggest examples that are relevant to, that scalability question. It can even help you quantify those achievements. So you can say something like, by implementing a cloud-based solution, I was able to reduce server costs by 15% while also increasing the system capacity by 25%.
Wow. That's really impressive.
Yeah, right.
It's like having a data analyst who can pull out the most relevant information from your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. A game changer for interview prep. All right, let's tackle one that gets to the heart of user experience. How do you ensure that ICT systems are easy to use and user-friendly?
All right, this one seems pretty straightforward,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing there's more to it than just making things look pretty, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about really understanding the needs of those people who are going to be using the system
Yeah.
and designing an experience that is intuitive, that's efficient, and hopefully even enjoyable. The career guide emphasizes this idea of user-centered design, which really means putting the user at the center of that whole design process.
Okay, so how do I actually demonstrate that? I have that user-centered design approach.
Well, talk about your process. Do you conduct user research? Do you create prototypes and test them with users? Do you gather feedback and iterate on your designs?
So it's not just about like having a gut feeling about what users want. It's actually talking to them, observing them, getting their input throughout the design process.
Exactly. And you can also mention those specific design principles that you follow, things like consistency, making sure elements behave predictably across the system, clear navigation. So users don't get lost, intuitive feedback mechanisms. So they get clear signals about what's happening. And of course, accessibility, making sure that the system can be used by people with diverse abilities.
These are all really great points. And I'm imagining that RoleCatcher's AI could help me brainstorm some specific examples of how I've incorporated that user feedback into my designs in the past.
For sure, yep. Their Copilot AI can actually analyze your work history and suggest specific projects.
Right.
Where you've demonstrated that user-centered design approach, it can even help you identify some quantifiable results. So you can say something like, by implementing this new user interface, I was able to reduce user errors by 20% and also increase user satisfaction by 15%.
Wow.
Right.
That's awesome. It's like having a personal PR agent who can highlight your most impressive achievements.
Absolutely. An invaluable tool for anyone who wants to ace their interview. Now, how about this question? How do you keep up to date with the latest ICT technologies and trends?
This one feels like a no-brainer, but I bet there's a way to answer it that makes you really stand out.
Right. Instead of just listing websites or publications that you follow, talk about a recent technological development that you find really exciting and explain why.
So I could talk about how I'm fascinated by, the potential of edge computing to revolutionize data processing, or how I'm experimenting with new machine learning algorithms in my spare time.
Exactly. Show them that you're passionate about technology, you're curious, and you're always eager to learn new things.
And that ties back into what the career guide mentioned about continuous learning being so important. In this field, technology is always evolving. You always have to be able to adapt, stay ahead of the curve.
That's a great point. And speaking of staying ahead of the curve, the guide also highlights the value of certifications.
Yeah, certifications like Cisco Certified Network Professional, the CCNP, or Microsoft Certified Azure Solutions Architect Expert, or AWS Certified Solutions Architect. These can really demonstrate your expertise in those specific technologies.
Absolutely. And they show those potential employers that you've not only learned the theory, but you've actually demonstrated those practical skills.
So it's not just about saying, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
It's like, I've got the credentials to back it up.
Exactly. So what if they follow up with, can you tell me about a time when you had to learn a new technology quickly to solve a problem?
Oh, I like that one. It really tests your ability to adapt and learn on the fly.
Exactly. And again, this is where RoleCatcher's Copilot AI can be a huge help because it can analyze your work history and suggest those specific instances where you had to quickly learn a new technology or adapt to a new situation. It can even help you structure your response in a way that really highlights those key skills and achievements.
It's like having a storyteller who can weave together the most compelling narrative
Yeah,
from your experiences.
absolutely. An invaluable tool for anyone who wants to make a lasting impression. All right, another big one. How do you prioritize and manage multiple projects simultaneously?
Okay, this is about organization and juggling those multiple priorities without, dropping any balls.
Exactly. And also demonstrating your ability to work under pressure. So, talk about your approach to project management. Do you use a specific methodology like agile or waterfall? Do you have a system for prioritizing tasks and tracking deadlines?
Okay, so I could talk about how I use Kanban boards to visualize my workflow,
Hmm.
or how I break down those large projects into smaller, more manageable tasks.
Exactly. And don't forget to mention the tools that you use, whether it's project management software, like Asana or Trello, or even communication tools like Slack or Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, showing them you've got a system in place and you can stay organized,
Yes.
on track, even when things get a little hectic.
Exactly. Now, what if they follow up with, can you tell me about a time when you had to manage conflicting deadlines or those competing priorities?
Now I get to share a real-life war story about those moments of chaos that come with juggling multiple projects.
Exactly. And this is another area where RoleCatcher's Copilot AI can be a huge help because it can analyze those past experiences and suggest specific instances where you successfully navigated those challenging project management scenarios.
So I could talk about a time when I had to reprioritize tasks to meet a critical deadline, or a time when I had to negotiate with stakeholders to resolve those conflicting requirements.
Exactly. And by quantifying your achievements, you can really make your story stand out. For example, you could say, by implementing a new project management methodology, I was able to reduce project delays by 10% and increase on-time delivery rates by 15%.
Those are some impressive stats.
Right.
It really shows the impact of those project management skills.
Exactly. It shows that you're not just good at managing projects, you're good at managing them effectively. All right, let's tackle another big one. How do you ensure that ICT systems meet security and compliance requirements? I mean, this is huge in today's world with all the cyber threats and data breaches.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
They want to see that you get it, you understand the importance of security,
yeah,
and that you have a proactive approach to mitigating those risks.
exactly. So talk about your knowledge of those industry standards and best practices, things like ISO 27001 or the NIST cybersecurity framework.
Okay?
And you can mention specific security measures you've implemented in the past, like firewalls, intrusion detection systems, data encryption protocols.
And any security certifications I have, like
Wow.
the CISSP, definitely highlight those too.
Absolutely. Those certifications demonstrate your commitment to security and that knowledge of best practices. So what if they say, can you tell me about a time when you had to deal with a security incident? How did you approach that situation?
Okay, now they're really digging deep into my experience, problem-solving skills.
Yeah, exactly. They want to see you can think on your feet, you can stay calm under pressure, and take decisive action to mitigate risks.
So I could talk about a time when I had to investigate some suspicious network activity, or a time when I had to implement a patch to fix a security vulnerability.
Exactly. And again, RoleCatcher's Copilot AI can be a great resource here because it can analyze those past experiences and suggest specific security incidents that you've handled successfully, and it can help you structure your response in a way that highlights those key skills and achievements.
It's like having a personal security consultant who can help you showcase your expertise
Yeah.
in this really critical area.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to a question that really gets to the core of what an ICT system architect does. How do you approach system design and architecture?
Okay, so now I get to show off my methodology, my thought process.
Exactly. They want to understand how you think about systems, how you approach those complex problems, and how you arrive at solutions.
Okay, so I could talk about how I start by gathering requirements
Yeah.
and creating those high-level designs, and then, iterating and refining them based on feedback and testing.
Exactly. And talk about specific design principles that you follow, things like modularity, scalability, maintainability.
And I should mention the tools I use too, like UML diagrams
Yeah.
or architecture modeling software.
Absolutely. It's about showing them you have that structured approach to system design, and you're familiar with those industry standard tools and techniques. So what if they say, can you walk me through a specific example of a system that you designed? What were some of those key challenges, and how did you address them?
Time to nerd out a bit. Showcase those technical skills.
Exactly, and it's a great opportunity to really demonstrate those problem-solving abilities.
Mm.
So talk about those specific challenges you faced. Were there technical limitations, budget constraints, conflicting stakeholder requirements, and most importantly, highlight how you used your skills and creativity to find solutions.
And RoleCatcher's Copilot AI can help me brainstorm those specific system design challenges that might be relevant to the job I'm applying for.
Absolutely, and it can help you identify those quantifiable results. So you can say something like, by implementing a new system architecture, I was able to reduce system downtime by 20% and also increase transaction processing speed by 15%.
Wow, that's bragging rights.
Right. Now, one more. How do you collaborate with other departments and stakeholders to ensure that ICT systems meet their needs?
Okay, this one is going beyond just technical skills. Now we're talking about communication, collaboration, and understanding how technology fits into the larger organization.
Exactly. They want to see that you're not just a lone wolf coder, that you can work effectively as part of a team, and that you can build those relationships with people from different departments.
Okay, so I should talk about how I gather requirements from stakeholders, how I communicate those technical concepts to non-technical audiences, and how I resolve conflicts and build consensus.
Exactly. And you can mention specific techniques that you use, things like stakeholder mapping or requirements elicitation workshops.
And any experience I have with cross-functional teams, I should definitely highlight that too.
Absolutely. It shows that you're comfortable working in that collaborative environment and that you understand how to navigate those complex organizational structures. Now, what if they say, can you tell me about a time when you had to work with a difficult stakeholder or maybe resolve a conflict between departments?
Ah, yes. Time for another war story. This time about using my diplomacy skills to get through a tricky situation.
Exactly, and it's an opportunity to showcase those problem-solving and communication skills. Talk about the specific challenges you faced, how you approached the situation, and what was the outcome.
And again, RoleCatcher's Copilot AI can really help here. It can analyze my past experiences and suggest specific examples of challenging stakeholder interactions. That I've handled successfully.
It's like having a personal coach, helping you craft that perfect anecdote to really showcase those interpersonal skills.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's still more to come. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll tackle even more challenging questions and explore how RoleCatcher's AI can help you tailor your answers and really boost that confidence.
Definitely. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We're continuing our deep dive into ICT System Architect interview questions, giving you the knowledge and strategies to stand out from the competition.
Going through these questions, it really makes you realize just how multifaceted this role really is. It's that blend of technical expertise, strategic thinking, and those all-important people skills. You're absolutely right, and this next question really emphasizes that. How do you ensure that ICT systems are reliable and available?
Okay.
Because it's not just about building systems, it's about building systems that people can actually depend on day in, day out.
So they're looking for someone who understands those critical concepts of redundancy, fault tolerance, disaster recovery.
Exactly. They want to see that you can anticipate potential problems and design systems that can withstand failures without causing those major disruptions. Think of it like building a fortress that can weather any storm.
Okay, so how do I convey that I have that fortress building mindset?
Well, instead of just listing technical terms, paint a picture for them. Talk about your experience implementing high availability architectures, using load balancers to distribute traffic, setting up failover mechanisms to seamlessly switch to backup systems.
So it's about bringing those concepts to life with real-world examples of how I've applied them in the past.
Precisely. Share a story about a time when you had to deal with a system outage. How did you diagnose the problem? What steps did you take to restore service quickly? How did you minimize the impact on users? The more specific and engaging those examples are, the better.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about letting a compelling story demonstrate my ability to handle those high-pressure situations.
Exactly. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's Copilot AI can be a fantastic resource for this. to brainstorm specific examples from your past experience that really align with these concepts.
Right, it's like having that personal assistant who can sift through my memory and pull out those golden nuggets. That'll really impress the interviewers.
Now let's switch gears a little bit and revisit a topic we touched on earlier, but with a slightly different angle. The question is, how do you ensure that ICT systems are easy to use and user-friendly? But this time, let's delve a little deeper into the psychology behind user experience.
It is interesting because this question seems, deceptively simple, but you start thinking about it, there's a whole world of thought and strategy behind creating systems that people actually enjoy using.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. This question goes beyond just designing those visually appealing interfaces. It's about understanding user needs, workflows, even their emotional responses to the system.
So it's almost like being a detective, trying to uncover those hidden clues about what makes a user tick.
I love that analogy. And just like a detective, you need a process. So talk about how you conduct user research, how you create prototypes and test them with actual users, and how you gather feedback and iterate on your designs.
So it's demonstrating that I don't just rely on my own assumptions about what users want. It's about actively seeking their input, incorporating it into the design process.
Exactly. And you can also mention those specific design principles that you adhere to, things like consistency. So making sure that elements behave predictably across the system. Clear navigation, so users don't get lost. Intuitive feedback mechanisms, so they get clear signals about what's happening. And of course, accessibility, making sure the system can be used by people with diverse abilities.
Those design principles actually seem to align with that concept of systems thinking that the career guide mentioned. Is like understanding how all the pieces work together to create that cohesive, user-friendly experience.
That's a great observation. It shows that you're able to connect the dots between different concepts and apply them holistically.
And I bet RoleCatcher's Copilot AI can help me brainstorm specific examples of how I've applied those design principles and used user feedback in my past projects.
For sure. Yep. Copilot AI can analyze that work history, pull out those shining examples where you've really made a difference in improving that user experience.
Like a highlight reel of my user-centered design moments.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift gears to a question that can trip people up. How do you manage and analyze data in ICT systems? Now, this might seem straightforward, but there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, because it's not just about, knowing how to store and retrieve data. It's about extracting those meaningful insights and using them to actually drive decisions.
You got it. So instead of just listing the databases you're familiar with, talk about your experience with data modeling. How do you structure data effectively? Data visualization tools. How do you create those compelling visuals to communicate insights? And even some statistical analysis techniques. How do you use data to identify trends and make predictions?
So showcasing my data-driven mindset and my ability to turn that raw data into actionable intelligence.
Precisely. Have you ever used data to identify bottlenecks in a system, or to optimize performance, or make strategic recommendations? Share those stories. And don't be shy about mentioning those specific tools you've used, whether it's SQL for querying databases, Tableau for creating dashboards, or Python for data analysis.
Okay, it's about showing them I've got the skills to handle data effectively. And that I really understand its power in informing decision-making.
And remember, RoleCatcher's Copilot AI can help you identify and articulate those data-driven achievements from your past experience. Now, let's face it, there's a question that everyone kind of dreads a little bit. What are your salary expectations?
Yeah, the salary question. It can feel like you're walking a tightrope. I don't want to aim too low and undervalue myself, but I also don't want to price myself out of the running.
The salary question. It's a tough one. But research is key. Look at industry benchmarks for ICT system architects in your location. Use those online salary calculators. Take into account your experience level and your skill set. And RoleCatcher actually has some great resources on salary negotiation too.
Okay, so it's not just about pulling a number out of thin air. It's about really having data to back up my expectations.
Exactly. And be prepared to articulate your value. What unique skills and experience do you bring? How have you contributed to the success of past projects? What quantifiable results can you point to?
It's almost like I'm pitching myself as an investment and highlighting my potential return on investment for the company.
That's a great way to think about it. Now, remember, the interview process, it's a two-way street. You're also evaluating them just as much as they're evaluating you.
Oh, that's right. It's easy to get so caught up in trying to impress them that I forget I also need to make sure this is a good fit for me.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to ask questions. In fact, asking thoughtful questions actually shows that you're engaged, you're curious, and you've done your homework. You could ask about the company culture, their technology stack, their approach to professional development, or even something specific about the project you'd be working on.
Okay, so things like, what are some of the biggest challenges that the team's facing right now? Or what are the opportunities for growth and development within the company?
Those are great examples. It shows them that you're not just looking for any job, you're looking for the right fit. And speaking of finding the right fit, let's loop back to RoleCatcher's Copilot AI one last time.
I am constantly amazed by all the ways this tool can help throughout the job search process.
You're right, it is incredible. And in this case, it can actually analyze your resume and highlight any potential red flags that might be holding you back from getting those interviews.
So it's not just about helping me ace the interview. It's about helping me get to the interview in
Yeah.
first place.
Exactly. It's like having a personal brand consultant
Mm.
and a career coach all rolled into one. Now, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Okay, back for the final part of our ICT System Architect interview prep deep dive. We've covered so much ground already. You've learned about those tricky questions and how to really showcase your expertise.
Exactly. And in this last part, we're going to tackle a few more challenging questions
Yep.
and uncover some hidden gems in that RoleCatcher career guide. And we'll explore how to really leave that lasting impression on the hiring manager.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's jump right into a question that often throws people off. Can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult technical decision with limited information?
Oh, yeah. That is a tough one. It's like they're trying to see, can you handle the pressure? Can you make good judgment calls, even when you don't have all the information?
You got it. It's a test of your problem-solving skills and your ability to think critically and creatively. So when you're crafting your answer, really focus on highlighting that decision-making process.
Okay, so I could talk about how I gathered, as much information as possible, even if it was limited,
Yeah.
and how I weighed the potential risks and benefits of different options.
Exactly. And don't forget to mention how you sought input from others, whether it was colleagues, subject matter experts, or even stakeholders.
Right. It's about showing them, I'm not afraid to ask for help, but I can also, make those informed decisions, even in those kind of ambiguous situations.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher's Copilot AI can be a great resource here, too. It can analyze your past experiences and suggest specific examples of tough decisions that you've made successfully.
Like a personal advisor,
Yeah.
helping me remember all those key moments that really showcase my decision-making skills.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to a question that's all about innovation. How do you stay ahead of the curve in the rapidly evolving field of ICT?
Okay, this is where I get to show off my passion for technology and my commitment to continuous learning.
Absolutely. And the career guide actually emphasizes the importance of professional development. It
Yeah.
mentions certifications, online courses, industry conferences, and even just staying active in online communities and forums.
So I could talk about how I'm pursuing, certification in cloud security, or how I recently attended a conference on emerging trends in AI.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to mention any personal projects
Yeah.
or side hustles that really demonstrate your curiosity
Great.
and willingness to experiment with new technologies.
Okay, so like if I'm tinkering with a Raspberry Pi in my spare time or building a mobile app, just for fun, those are all worth mentioning.
Absolutely. Those activities really show that you're a lifelong learner who's passionate about pushing those boundaries.
Okay, now for the question that can always feel a little awkward. Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, the dreaded "do you have any questions?" But remember, this is your chance to turn the tables and interview the interviewer.
Okay, so it's not just about, politely asking a few generic questions. It's about showing them that I'm genuinely curious
Yeah.
about the company, the team, the role.
Exactly. It's an opportunity to get valuable information that can help you decide if this is the right fit for you. So come prepared with a few thoughtful questions that really demonstrate your interest and engagement.
So I could ask something like, what are some of the biggest challenges facing the team right now? Or what are the opportunities for growth and development within the company?
Those are great examples. You could also ask about the company culture, their technology stack, their approach to work-life balance.
Yeah, it's about showing them I'm not just looking for a job, I'm looking for a place where I can really thrive, make a meaningful contribution.
Exactly. And speaking of finding the right fit, let's loop back to RoleCatcher's Copilot AI one last time.
I'm telling you, this tool, it's amazing how it can help throughout the entire process.
It's true. One of the most powerful features is its ability to provide personalized feedback on your interview answers.
Okay, so it's not just giving me like canned responses. It's about helping me tailor my answers to that specific job and company.
Precisely. Copilot AI, it can analyze your answers, identify areas for improvement, and even suggest alternative wording to make those responses more impactful.
It's like having a personal speech coach to help me refine my delivery
Yeah,
and make sure I'm hitting all the right notes.
exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher offers all these amazing resources, from those comprehensive career guides to their cutting-edge AI tools, totally free.
Wow, they're really committed to helping people succeed.
Absolutely. So there you have it. You're now armed with the knowledge, the strategies, the tools you need to really ace that ICT System Architect interview.
I feel so much more prepared and confident thanks to this deep dive.
Remember, preparation is key. The more you research the role, the company, and the interview process, the better you'll perform.
Absolutely. And don't forget to leverage those incredible resources from RoleCatcher. Those career guides, interview guides, and especially Copilot AI can really give you that extra edge to land your dream job.
You got this. Go out there and crush that interview.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.